So guys, this is one of my favorite topics to discuss. And today's podcast is titled Grey Food is Not Sexy. Now, in particular, when we are cooking things like ground beef or beef mince, and a lot of people blame their butchers for pumping the meat full of liquid to charge them extra per kilo. Now, that actually is not the case. And yes, there are some cuts of meat like bacon or ham where they might actually soak it in a brine to cure it. But when you have put beef mince, and stir fries are another one, we're going to discuss that in another podcast. But when you have put beef mince into a pan that is not quite hot, and you put it in the pan, and then you're a compulsive stirrer, what will happen is that meat will have no choice but to drop its liquid. Now, I know that is going to upset quite a few people because we love to stir things. And I always say, if you're a compulsive stirrer, risottos and soups are fabulous for you. But when we are cooking something as simple as a beef mince, and beef mince is fabulous because it is inexpensive and it is very versatile. I can do 100 dishes with beef mince and still make them sexy enough to serve at a dinner party. But I'm talking about weeknight meals here, more importantly, and also just fixing your cooking methods. So I literally am going to save you, I always say as a joke, 20 years of your natural life, because if you are pouring gray liquid, which has now come off your meat, and you're blaming the butcher, and you're pouring that gray liquid down the drain, you are in fact pouring the hope of the dish down the drain. So it's a quick little fix. Most recipes would have told you to brown the onions and the garlic, or saute the garlic and the onions in your pan, and you would generally have a little bit of oil in there, and then you would stir that until it's nice and translucent. That's absolutely fine. But when you put your 600 or 800 grams of ice cold beef mince, hopefully not frozen, but that's life. Sometimes we have to do that. But when you put that into a medium heat pan, it is not going to have that glorious sizzle or enough heat to actually start browning itself. And browning is very important. And you can hear I get very excited because browning is an opportunity for the Maillard reaction to actually occur. And that's when we brown and caramelize the meat. And that's when we get free flavor. So what I do when I cook a bolognese or a Mexican mince, and I'll take you through some really groovy ideas in a moment. But what I do is I take my nonstick pan, put it on to the stovetop. I get the pan swear word hot. Now, when I say swear word hot, I mean swear word hot. So we're not going medium, we're not going low. I then would grease it out, and this is totally up to you. Grease it out with a canola or a veggie oil or something that you like to use. However, I would not use, in this instance, when I'm heating the pan to swear word hot, I would not use an extra virgin olive oil. Now, extra virgin olive oil is gorgeous. I love to pour it over salads. I love to make salad dressings out of it. And there's lots of other dishes I would do. But when I'm trying to brown something, extra virgin olive oil is like a little princess. I always say it does not like to get hot and sweaty or do any work. So it does tend to make things stick as well. So if you've ever cooked a piece of fish in a non-stick pan with extra virgin olive oil, it might not be your fault that that's stuck, but that's another episode altogether. I'm back to the beef mince. So when I put mine in, the pan is swear word hot. I put that 800 or 600 grams of ice cold beef mince in there. And what I want to hear is a big sizzle. Now, it's not going to burn unless you have a pan that is like nuclear hot. Your mince is not going to burn. But what I want you to do is, I always say, back away from the pan. Don't be tempted to stir too quickly, because what we do when we stir is we actually smother the heat in the pan. So if you're one of those chefs that likes to put their mince in the pan and then flatten it, that is when you kill the heat in the pan. So what I do is I actually cook in half the side of the pan, and I leave the other side empty or naked so that it is actually keeping its heat up. Now, if you are worried about your beef mince getting lumps, totally understand that. The best way to remove lumps out of your beef mince is either using like an egg lift, like a plastic egg lift, or I like to use my plastic whisk. Now, we've all got that crappy plastic whisk. It is not capable of beating cream, but what it is going to be great for is if you just use it to actually fluff your beef mince. Now, that gets rid of all the lumps, but we need to manage the heat So I always say cooking is like having a relationship. So when there's a sizzle in your relationship and when they're talking to you, you know things are going well. So try keep the pan sizzling the whole time you are browning your beef mince. And this goes for steaks and stir fries. But like I said, that's a different episode altogether. However, back to the relationship. If you are a compulsive stirrer, and this might be called nagging in a relationship. So say you stir and you nag or nag, they are literally going to go quiet on you. So that's exactly when your mince will, the pan will go quiet. And generally that's when it starts crying. So the liquid has now come out of the beef mince because the beef was cold and all the liquid came out. Now, generally, if you are pouring that gray liquid down the drain, and I said earlier, that's pouring the hope of the dish down the drain as well, but it's not that serious. What we can do is we can get it back. Like a relationship, you can always get them back. So we're scooping all the food to the side, one side of the pan. So use half the side of your pan. You're going to put your heat up, swear word hot. So I want all that liquid to now have a chance to evaporate out of your pan, and for that flavor and the moisture and the personality and all that gorgeous stuff to actually cook back into our beef mince. So I would actually then, and there is enough fat in even a lean or a 4-star, definitely in a 3-star beef mince, for you to actually use the heat of the pan to render all that very valuable fat, which is flavor, out of that beef mince, no matter how lean it is. So I don't like to use a lot of oil when I'm cooking beef mince, because generally if you've ever made a bolognese or any of those mince dishes and you've used a little bit of oil in the beginning with your onions and your garlic, you will find that at the end you are spooning that oil off. And I'm too lazy, far too lazy to do all that extra work later. So I also don't like to put extra oil into my beef mince. I'm quite happy to have as many calories as possible in a dessert, but floaty fat coming out of beef mince, it's just not my thing, and I just don't like it. So I'm cooking quite lean because I'm rendering the fat out of the beef mince, like I said, regardless of whether it's a 3-star or a 4-star or a completely lean beef mince. So once I've done that, and you're going, well, where's the flavor? So once I've done that and I've browned off that meat, and it's going to smell like roast beef. So already you will have valuable flavor in there without having to work too hard. Now we can add our finely chopped garlic and onion, and if you chop them fine, they cook quickly. So don't worry about your onion not cooking through. I promise you that the onion, with a little bit of heat, with a little bit of stirring, and with a little bit of time, will be just as glorious as if it had had all the attention way back in the beginning. So trust me on this. It's going to change the way you cook. It's going to save you heaps of time and heaps of stress. We want to take the stress out of cooking. So now, once the beef is beautiful and brown, scooch everything to the side. On your empty part of the pan, the naked side, that is where we are going to put our garlic and our onion. I'm then going to stir that through, get it nice and translucent, just like you would have done in the beginning. And then when that's nice and cooked, I can stir it all through. I can add my spices, and then you can start adding things like your tomato passata or your chopped fresh tomatoes. You can add diced carrots or grated carrots. And then I'm cooking at a lower temperature. So you don't need to go swear word hot the whole time. But at this stage, when you've browned it all off, we can now start cooking at a lower temperature. Now, I hope that helps you, because I just wanted to highlight that you're missing out on the flavor if you are cooking your mince at a low temperature, because you are missing out on that beautiful browning that happens. Now, with the beef mince, we cook beef mince at home at least once a week, and it might be even a 2-week type thing, because obviously beef mince, I can push that into burgers, I can do meatballs, I can do all that kind of thing. But beef mince, I always say I like to take it around the world. So my family never knows that I'm using the same cooking method again and again. And once you have success that first time with your beef mince, you are literally going to get excited and live happily ever after. With the beef mince, we can then take it around the world. So I'm talking about adding Mexican spices. So if you add a fajita mix or one of those other packet Mexican spices, and then you serve your beautiful mince on corn chips or in it with tortilla or in tacos, however you want. By changing the spices and the accompaniments, you can actually change the whole dish. So yes, it's just beef mince. Yes, we've cooked it perfectly. Yes, it's bursting with flavor, but we can then change the personality as well. And this will make you very handy and very lazy, but very confident and happy in the kitchen as well. So once you've done Mexican mince one too many times, you might decide to do a Spanish mince. So when I do a Spanish mince, I might take chorizo sausage. So I even take frozen chorizo sausage. I put it into a food processor. And then what I might do is actually blend that chorizo sausage into a chorizo gravel. Now that sounds quite cheffy, but what I'm talking about is we've had chorizo sausage before where it's been a slice. Now, a slice is gorgeous, but it's quite a robust flavor, and the flavor is sort of concentrated just in that slice. What I like to do is pop that into the food processor, get it into a mince or into a gravel. Now, when we're cooking the beef mince and we're going to call it Spanish, I'm going to actually put that chorizo sausage in probably first because I want to render the fat out of there. Remember, fat is flavor. I can then add my minced beef. And then when the chorizo and the mince are nice and brown and you've separated and fluffed it up with your plastic whisk or your egg lift, you can then add beautiful smoked paprika. And obviously, if you wanted to add some moisture, then I'm using chopped tomatoes or maybe a passata. And then it's what we serve it with as well, which will make it more Spanish. So if I'm wanting to go all the way with the Spanish theme, so if I'm wanting to go all the way with the Spanish theme, what I would then do is serve it on a butter bean or a cannellini and garlic bean mash, which is straight out of the tin, heated up, blended up. They have beautiful texture, those tin beans, so don't be ashamed to use them. And it makes a very velvety puree, so very cheffy indeed. Once you've made the Spanish mince a few times, of course, nothing beats, using your Italian herbs, beautiful basil and sweet marjoram and those kind of things. That's one of my family's favorite. But also then maybe going an Indian curry powder or even a North African or Moroccan spice blend called Ras Al Hanout. Now, Ras Al Hanout is very easy to make yourself. You do need fresh spices to blend it up. So it would be cumin and cumin and coriander, turmeric, fenugreek. There's about 23 black pepper. You can buy them, of course, and I've got one in my range as well, and I call it a culinary spray tan because of that beautiful percentage in there of the turmeric, or turmeric, as some people might say. It actually does give your mince or whatever you're cooking a little bit more personality and color and, of course, flavor. So when I'm doing the Moroccan style with the Ras Al Hanout, I might open and drain a tin of chickpeas and throw them in there and serve it either, on, like I said, either on the bean puree or if it's going Moroccan with those chickpeas through there. It's actually quite a substantial meal. And of course, you can always serve it with a side salad or anything that you need. So mince or beef mince or ground beef has got a bad reputation because it is economical. But I promise you, if you're cooking it with flavor, it is going to be a dish that you can definitely use at a dinner party because, if you think about lasagnas and, even if you're doing a lamb mince, then it would be like a moussaka or something like that. But we can definitely pimp up our meat dishes and get away with it. So don't feel bad about serving mince at a dinner party or at a weeknight meal. If you've cooked it properly and if you're using maybe a Wagyu beef or something like that, well, of course, it would sound and taste a lot more expensive. But let me know how you do and if this cooking method has indeed given you some time back in the kitchen, because my mission is to help you live happily ever after in the kitchen. And in order for me to do that, I need to teach you all my little lazy shortcuts and hacks and tricks so that you can live happily ever after in your kitchen too. So guys, try that with your next time that you cook beef mince and let me know how you do. And remember, gray food is not sexy. Step away from the pan. If there is a compulsive stirrer in your house, you have permission to smack them on the hands and just tell them why you are trying to do what you're trying to do. It's supposed to be fun, guys. And have a good time cooking in the kitchen. Signing off from the Happy Chef.